Hello neighbor, I'm Robert Burns and welcome once again to another edition of Sound Off Louisiana. And today we'll be providing a fairly comprehensive update of Governor Landry's tax reform package. And you may recall from a previous feature we talked about the fact that one journalist, namely Tyler Bridges with The Advocate, had stated that there are two bitter pills involved in this whole process, that being House Bill 9 and House Bill 10. Obviously he was correct, and I think most people would be able to figure this was a bitter pill. In fact, he made a Mary Poppins analogy in a subsequent article. You know, the lyrics for that, for those who are too young to know it, was just a spoonful of medicine helps, a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. Well, apparently in the House, the spoonful of sugar, that being the tax relief for individual income taxes and corporate income taxes, was not enough sugar to get House Bill 9 down. Now, House Bill 9 is the one that is probably obviously the most controversial because it expands the base upon which the sales taxes in Louisiana would be administered. So you may remember in our initial feature, we've done two features on this fiscal reform. Governor Landry, in making his presentation, he said, look, if you pull one string out, then another string's got to come somewhere to make this whole thing work. And he said, so if you do that, please offer something to replace. And so I'm certainly not a legislator, but I'm going to go ahead and provide my take, and I know I speak for a number of other folk that I've talked to about this. If House Bill 9 ends up completely causing an impasse and a pill that cannot be swallowed, I don't like what I'm hearing as being the solution, which is, well, we'll back off 1/10 of a point on the maximum personal income tax rate for every $100 million that fail to be raised. In other words, let's say House Bill 9 in its entirety had to be scrapped. That would mean that this is approximate, the reduction of that tax bracket would have to be to roughly 3.5% rather than 3%. I don't like that at all, and I believe it will largely negate much of the benefit of doing this entire fiscal reform. And so, like I said, I'm not a legislator, but I'm going to express my opinion and the sentiments that I know I've heard from a ton of other folks. And that is, if House Bill 9 has to be scrapped, because it looks like it's got a lot of opposition. That's why you haven't seen a vote on it, and you may never see a vote because some of this opposition, I would imagine, is quite stiff. But if that's going to be the case, and so there's about $500 million or so a year that's going to have to be made up somewhere, just like Governor Landry said, then my strong suggestion is let's revert back to Governor Edwards's clean penny. And in fact, you would not even have to revert to a full clean penny doing my computations. Now, right now, and this is House Bill 10, which just barely made it, I had one vote to spare, so that one there was just barely enough sugar to get it through. There were 71 House votes. All of this requires 2/3 votes. So there was one vote to spare on that, and what they have done on it is the extension of the 0.45 sales tax, 0.45% that is scheduled to expire on June the 30th, would be made permanent. However, they did reduce it to 0.4 in going forward in perpetuity. It would be my strong recommendation that instead of, if versus, now hear what I'm saying, versus going back and reneging on lowering that personal income tax rate to 3%, I know I speak for an awful lot of folk that would rather see that sales tax rate not lowered but higher, lifted. Like I said, back potentially all the way back to the clean penny that Governor Edwards initially sought and got when he assumed office. But here's the key difference, all right? This is not to go out and fund a whole bunch of spending. This is a tax swap, which seems to be lost on the minds of some folk out there that are making some noise. So that's my strong recommendation, is that the Senate put an amendment in that bill. If it appears that House Bill 9 is going to die on the vine, that there be an amendment to House Bill 10 that says rather than lowering the 0.45 to 0.4, that we would instead rise it. And by my computations, it would need to rise to about 0.75 or 0.8 to completely offset what was estimated to be from House Bill 9. I think you would see a lot of resistance suddenly soften because it would not involve a whole bunch of new people having to collect sales taxes. It would only involve the folk that are already collecting the sales taxes, who have the infrastructure in place, and all they got to do is change one little digit on the computation in the computer program to another digit, and everybody just goes on about their business. I mentioned a while ago that there's been some noise. You had Michael Lunsford, who published a major feature just absolutely lambasting this thing up one side and down the other, but he only focused on those elements that were the, quote, bitter pills, as Tyler Bridges has referred to them. Completely ignored the reduction in the personal income tax, completely ignored the reduction in the corporate income tax, completely ignored the elimination of the franchise tax, all of which should tremendously benefit everyday citizens and certainly attract business into this state and thereby grow the economy and generate more tax revenues, at which point we can start to lower the personal income tax rate even more, which is the plan that Governor Landry has, and basically phase out the income tax, which is exactly what has been done in Texas, it's been done in Mississippi. We are sticking out like a sore thumb on this, and he's put forth something to try and get us a lot closer and get us all the way there over time. Everyone knows I have strongly supported him on this. By the way, when the Michael Lunsford feature came out, he got a direct call from Governor Landry. He did a follow-up feature where he outlined that he got invited in to be with the governor, and even mentioned two folks. He said James Lee, who is someone I know, escorted him in, and John Kay sat, and I know John Kay well too. So I've never had the luxury of being invited into the governor's mansion. They may say, well, on this one, you're one of his biggest cheerleaders. We don't need to bring you in for some remedial training. But certainly I have, if somebody thinks I'm just a Jeff Landry sycophant, you know that's not the case. I have certainly lambasted him over that Public Records Initiative and, the cosmetology situation about, trying to reduce some of these barriers to entry, and specifically the reduction in hours to get a cosmetology license last year. I mean, no sooner had he finished his speech before the Pelican Institute Solution Summit that he turned right around and did the exact opposite. So I am perfectly capable of taking the governor to task and have done so. But apparently those matters are like exhibition football games versus what's right now on the table, which is the Super Bowl. So again, I commend Governor Landry and his entire staff, Treasury Secretary Richard Nelson, or Revenue Secretary, whatever the case. Obviously it looks like there's one major hiccup here, and that being House Bill 9, and I'm just doing as Governor Landry said, that hey, if something here is going to be a problem, nothing's etched in stone, give us a suggestion, because when you pull one string out, we got to find a way to get another string in. That's my suggestion, is that rather than lowering the rate in House Bill 10 from 0.45 to 0.4, raise it, because I don't think you're going to get very much happiness if you go in and say, well, no, as the default, and that appears to be the logic right now, as the default, we're just going to raise that that maximum personal income tax rate. That defeats the whole purpose of what we're doing. So, or what we're trying to do. So that's my thoughts. I think it will be received far better than raising that top tax rate, because it's not, when you get down to it, it's not being reduced that much. I mean, it's 30%, I guess it's nothing to sneeze at, but it still leaves a long way to go. And so if you shrink that little bit of progress, I don't think it's going to go over well. It's not going to go over well with me, but we'll just have to live with it if that's what ends up happening. So that'll do it for today's feature, and we look forward to continuing to follow the fiscal reform, and we'll update you the next time that we see the need to have a major update. Thank you so much, and hope everyone has an enjoyable upcoming holidays. We look forward to seeing you again real soon.